When considering the nearly 8 billion people on Earth, it's clear that there's a vast difference in the resources available to each of us and the influence we wield. However, what we all share is the power to govern our own lives and thoughts. As Thoreau famously said, "Think for yourself, or others will think for you without considering you." Life moves swiftly, and if one cannot pause to reflect on their surroundings, they risk becoming just a cog in the machinery of their own existence, a pawn on the chessboard of life. Reality is a constant battle, a struggle for self-interest. It demands that we build fortifications around what we hold dear and protect it at all costs. Your worldview forms the foundation of everything valuable in your life, yet it is constantly under siege, attacked by negativity, suffering, and external influences, hoping you'll outsource your thinking, allowing them to rule from afar. Maintaining control over your own perspective is no small feat. It is perhaps the most crucial battle of your life. It distinguishes between living intentionally and living by chance, between being the ruler and being ruled. As the saying goes, if you don't build your dream, you will spend your days building someone else's. If you don't identify what you want in life, those desires will be overshadowed by meaningless obligations. Where there is a lack of awareness, it is often filled by forces that do not share your interests. Mistakes themselves are not the issue. Making mistakes signifies that you are present, striving towards something, and learning from life's ongoing experiment. It's autopilot that poses a true threat, like a frog in slowly heating water, unaware of the danger until it's too late. This message is not meant to instill fear or intimidation, but to remind you to ask the critical question: how is my life best lived, and what steps can I take to make that a reality? If you can think for yourself, you are never out of the fight. You are always one decision away from progressing toward what truly matters. Trust yourself to do what is right for you in a world where no one else has all the answers. You don't need external endorsements or approvals. Take the road less traveled by, as Robert Frost suggested, and don't look back or feel remorse. This journey forces you to confront tough questions and embrace your true self, because the crowd often contradicts rationality. Not only does responsibility dissipate in a crowd, but people also tend to act like well-dressed chimpanzees, losing sight of individual goals. Have the courage to recognize that life doesn't come with an instruction manual. Everything around you is something you've accepted in some way, and by not saying no, you've effectively said yes. Understand that the world around you won't change until your thoughts become the bridge connecting the present to the future, today to tomorrow. Life cannot victimize you or make you a pawn on its chessboard without your consent, whether implicit or explicit. You have the ability to think, control, and create something greater than what's immediately in front of you. Let today be your next courageous step in the direction of that vision. Reality, life's best-kept secret, is simple. Just show up. Show up when you're tired, when you're feeling down. Show up after a defeat. Show up when you're stressed, when you're worried. Show up even when you don't feel like it. In fact, that's when it's most important to show up. That is what makes the greatest difference. Reality, life's best-kept secret, is simple. Just show up. Show up when you're tired, when you're feeling down. Show up after a defeat. Show up when you're stressed, when you're worried. Show up even when you don't feel like it. In fact, that's when it's most important to show up. That is what makes the greatest difference. Many of us, somewhere along the way, adopt the idea that winning is about hitting a home run, stepping up to the plate and swinging so hard that the ball never returns to earth. While that's a fantastic sentiment and great when it happens, sustained success isn't about one monumental occurrence. It's about little victories, consistently occurring over and over. These victories are so small that to an onlooker, they might seem too ordinary to be considered successful or even acknowledged. They seem mundane and are only victories because you decided they are. The evidence is out there. Successful teams don't build game plans around last-second heroics. They show up every day and master the task in front of them, compounding daily opportunities. This consistent effort puts them in a position to execute, no matter how the situation unfolds. They showed up when it didn't matter, which means everything when it does matter. Something I remind myself every day, and something I think everyone should hear. Those waiting for life to hand out miracles will always be left behind by those willing to show up when it's not fun, sexy, or exciting. Show up on days when you're tired, weak, and feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. We all know how easy it is to use these moments as an excuse to take a break, especially when you know in the back of your mind, this is just practice. The world won't end if you sit this one out. But if you wouldn't sit out the real thing, the Super Bowl of your pursuit, you must understand the value of the mundane steps leading to that event. Each seemingly insignificant step is your Super Bowl. It's not just close to the same, it has to be the same. The saying goes, you play the way you practice, but now we're saying there is no difference. When the lights are turned on and you're standing on that stage, it's not a new experience you have to figure out. It's the continuation of that staircase, the familiar. You showed up then, and you'll show up now. When you were unsure of yourself, you didn't hide, you trusted yourself. Now, that same trust stands by your side. When you were tired and weak, with a million things on your mind, you didn't fail. You blocked out the world and found clarity. Now, that same clarity simplifies what lies before you. When you felt discouraged, when the finish line seemed too far away, you reconnected with your purpose by simply executing, by being there. Now, every part of you will execute here just the same. While it's their Super Bowl, their championship, their one shot, this is your everyday, your DNA. It's watching the ball roll down the hill that you created, pushed by momentum you brought to life. You'll do what you came here to do because you made that decision every step of the way, every single day leading up to now. Sometimes success is merely hanging on when others would let go. It's not about doing anything spectacular or out of the ordinary, not leaping a mile or jumping over a mountain, but simply carrying on. As Thomas Edison famously said, many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. Right, how close they were to the finish line when they turned their backs and said it wasn't worth it. It's a fascinating concept to grasp. Success is about seeing what others can't, believing when others don't. It's taking those abstract visions, those pictures in your head, and finding the courage to make them real, to bring them to life. It's a constantly evolving process that grows a little every single day. Sometimes we feel that progress, we feel the momentum, we do something big, and it's exciting. Sometimes the progress feels small. And then there are times when we get knocked down and don't see it at all. We feel like we've lost, that we've failed because we weren't validated, and we forget that this is part of the process. Progress is a journey that moves when you move and stops when you stop. Like the famous Dalai Lama quote, "The only way to fail is to quit." No one ever stops because they can't. They stop because they decide to. They stop because they see that huge mountain and think it's impossible, forgetting that it's only made of little rocks. They stop because they get disheartened by the distance to the finish line, forgetting it only takes a collection of little steps to get there. You don't have to leap the entire distance. I've been there. This is me speaking from experience. It took me years to figure it out, and even now, life is rapidly evolving. I've poured my heart into things that, let's be honest, no one cared about. I've invested in opportunities that fell apart right in front of me, and each time it felt like the end of the world. I've been lost, unsure, and had to get up after things didn't go as planned. I've felt like a loser and had to look myself in the mirror and pick myself back up off the floor. But there's one thing I kept doing without a second thought: continuing on. Whether life lifted me up or beat me down, my plan for tomorrow was always the same. Get up and try again. Keep going. As I sat down this morning with my pen and a piece of paper, I thought, what's the one thing I would want to be told if I started out again? What's the one thing that people need to hear most? And it's to simply keep going, keep taking steps, because one day the world will start to make sense. You'll look around and be thankful for one thing, that when most would have stopped, you kept going.